This time on Normal Guy Games, we put together a gatehouse from Warcradle Scenics. So I have, as you've seen in my last video, obtained quite a bit of the Warcradle Scenics terrain. So this time I'm going to put together the gatehouse, and I'm actually quite excited for this particular piece. It looks really neat. Now, once again, and I actually did not follow my own advice here, pay attention to the instructions because I had this flipped around the wrong way. It happens though. But with this, just like any of my other projects, you have to make sure that you put everything in properly. Make sure you do this carefully especially when you're slotting the stairs in. Make sure you don't accidentally push the upper layer or the bottom layer of the MDF and crumple it as you're trying to put the piece in. Just all you got to do is line things up properly, a little bit of glue, and you'll be good to go. Now this stairwell ended up being really easy to put together. I had thought it was going to be quite a pain, but it really ended up being one of my favorite pieces to put together, which is odd because I usually hate stairs. In this particular instance, it was easy enough to just put a little bit of glue on this side piece, line it up, and push everything together. Just being careful to get everything in and not cram it too hard. All of the stairs lined up beautifully though, so I have to give Warcradle that. They did really well in putting some of these pieces together, even though the ramshackle residence was a little bit of a pain. This one so far has been easier by comparison, which is funny because it's the more complicated one. Now, one thing I like about the gatehouse is it demonstrates a little bit better the multi-layered terrain, the multi-layered walls. So in this particular piece, you actually put 3 different MDF pieces together from 3 different sheets, and it actually works to add that a little bit of depth to the building. It makes it a little bit more believable and a lot nicer, the fact that you have these thick walls with these details on the inside here. As you can see, those walls are broken and the supports that are on the inside there are showing, which I have to say I'm really I enjoy that. Now this particular piece, I did make one mistake. I put the stairs on upside down, and I had to go back and fix that and flip it because I had positioned it the wrong way around. And as you can see here, I'm kind of realizing that I did it wrong. So I took the stairs off, flipped it over, stuck it back together, put it back in, no problem. Once again, usually stairs are the bane of my existence when putting things together, but these worked out really well. Now, lining up those 3 first pieces actually makes a difference here because 2 of the little the holes that you put the pegs in are lined up right underneath that stone wall where the brown meets the stone. And once you get that together, it already you can see the building kind of coming together. And one thing I've been doing on pieces that I forget to glue, I actually will take the brush and I'll put some glue on the brush and I will put that inside the crevice that I forgot to glue. And that usually will do the trick depending on how big that piece is. Now this one did give me a little bit of problems, but once I got it all figured out, it looks really good. This is the end cap at the bottom of the stairs. This one, you will need to line it up a little bit better than I did before you start pushing it in, because I actually did not take my own advice here and I pushed some of the top layer of the MDF up and crumpled it. But I ended up fixing it later with a little bit of glue and an X-Acto knife, so it's nothing too crazy. This far wall is actually, again, a 3-panel MDF wall, and once again it just shows off how nice it looks to have that extra little bit of MDF in there to put some details in where details are needed. The side wall actually turned out really well with that stairwell with those extra pieces, and this piece here is a center and the back. It actually contains the kind of an inner wall for a room and a break in the gatehouse in the back. So you can actually stick a model all the way through that break in the wall, which is going to be nice when I finally get a chance to play more time. Now this particular piece, you have to make sure that when you're lining up those 3 walls in the back there, that what I did is I put my X-Acto knife on the bottom of each of the little slats there, and I pushed it down to line up the 3 walls. That way it just slid on without an issue. Now this is putting together those walls, and I'll be honest with you, once I put those walls together and it started taking shape a little bit better, I knew that this was going to be my absolute favorite piece. The tavern is cool, the stables are cool, the residences are nice, but in this particular instance, for some reason, I really like this gatehouse. I like the way it looks, I like the way it feels. It has that, almost apocalyptic fantasy kind of a feel to it. You can tell that something went down, some shit went down. This particular piece, you have to actually, and if I move my hand here, you can see you actually have to slide it in, and once again it adds some of that 3-layer wall to that inner stairwell. So that was kind of simple. You just kind of position it in there and rock it in, no issue. And you can go back and even glue a little bit as well and kind of get it straightened out and strengthened. These scaffold pieces, you have to be careful. They're very thin, and once again, make sure you get the outer edge, that has the wood detailing, the little scrapes and scratches and burned into the side of the wood. Make sure that's facing out. And on these scaffolds, there are actually a couple of them that have breaks in them, purposefully. So make sure when you're putting them in that you're not putting pressure on the wrong spot. Now here I'm actually going underneath of it and inside of those places that are going to be shut down and quarantined off, and I'm adding a little bit of glue to reinforce. And here you can see wall number 1. Now that top floor, I actually did not glue that top floor in. It just stuck in there on its own. It's actually just kind of hovering there without any kind of support. This piece. All right, now this piece did irk me a little bit. It looks really nice, but it's actually a broken wall that has these like iron supports. So be very careful when you pull these off of the wooden sprue here, because it's very thin and easily breakable. Once you get them all broken out, make sure you pay attention also to the way the wall sits. You want the flat edge to be on the top, and you want there to be a lip on the bottom where the stone texture is. That way you can, when you stick it on the top there, it's that back wall where the top floor ends. You can put a little bit of glue there and get it together, a little bit, and let it stay a little nicer. Now this piece, make sure that when you're sticking the iron pieces in, the bends go out through the wall. So make sure you do it that way. These 3 pieces, so this is just a doorway, and you saw how I put together the last doorway for the ramshackle residence. It goes together the same way, and you have here, once again, I put the glue on the wrong side, which is fine. That'll just reinforce things. But once you get that together, you see that top room looks kind of nice. And this side piece here has one of the scaffolds that has a break in it. So make sure when you're putting this together, you don't put pressure on that break, or you might accidentally snap the piece. This side wall is basically the final piece for the bottom floor, pretty much, except for a small scaffold on one side. This piece here brings everything together. One thing, as you watch me here putting things together, one thing I forgot to do is I forgot to put glue on that far right hand side where the wall meets the other wall, and I have to actually go back and put a little bit of glue in there and fix it as we're going. And you can see I'm putting a little bit of glue in each of these little in the holes there where the pegs go, and you can see on that right side there where that crossed window is, I forgot to put the glue on the wall, so I go back and I just dab a little bit there and then push it together. No problem. I ended up putting a rubber band around that bottom piece like that to put it together tight and make sure the glue sticks and everything stays together tight. Once again, top wall also has an inner wall there that gives you a little more detail and makes it look kind of nice for a broken, ruined, ramshackle building. But it comes together quite nicely. Now this piece, this particular piece, a little bit of a point of contention for me. It's a railing that goes on, the outer sides here. You don't necessarily have to have it. It does end up looking it looks good, but as you'll see here in a second, as I was trying to get everything together, I ended up knocking the pieces off a couple of times. But it's easily fixable. You just have to push it right back on and, maybe refresh the glue if you need it. But all of the pieces, they're not really specific on which side that the handrails go on. So I just alternated them like someone kind of threw it together at the last minute, make it kind of slapdash. Just kind of like the rest of this building is. This building does look like it's seen some shit, It does. So having everything a little bit slapdash there and a little bit haphazard kind of adds to the aesthetic. Now, this particular piece, the circular area here, the little mezzanine on top, those railings actually were the easiest part to put together for this. They literally just pop right on the side, and you just put a little bit of glue and you're done. Now the V-shaped pieces, that is where the top, the half wall, the broken ceiling is going to go. Now that broken rooftop was fairly easy to put together, and you can see how I just laid the blue pieces in onto the slats. It says that you're not supposed to glue it, but honestly, I went ahead and glued it together because it just makes it easier for me to keep track of than trying to put different, put the rooftop in one place and then, the floor in another. I just figured I'll go ahead and just put it all together and leave it. So while that was drying, I put together the scaffold, and the scaffold was pretty simple. Once again, there are some pieces on here that are delicate, so when you're putting it together and pushing the pegs into the holes, be very careful how you do it. Just take your time and make sure that you're gentle with some of these, because they are, some of them, as you can see there, are broken and or kind of weak and frail. But once you get that all together, I actually used later on a rubber band to make everything kind of straighten up and leave it there. But I also did the trick of putting a little bit of glue on my brush and using the brush to get the glue into some of the harder to reach places. There is also one more note. There's a hook and looks like a cage for a prisoner. It ended up breaking for me, so I just left it off. So here's the final piece, the top half roof and the little platform along with the main gatehouse. So I really like this piece. I enjoyed putting it together, and I love the way it looks. And there will be more. I have plenty more of this terrain coming, and I hope to record it all and put it all up on my channel. So please like and subscribe, and thank you for watching. Tune in next time, and I think I'm going to put together the Gloomburg Tavern. So we'll see how that goes. Once again, thank you for watching. I really appreciate all of you taking the time out, even to watch for 5 minutes, if not all the way through.